All right, man. Peace. So I thought about doing this new series that's going to be called "The Workings of the Boule," or the Boule at Work. I haven't decided yet. And some of these series of videos that I'm going to be doing is going to be in collaboration with It's Election Year. And the whole thesis to this whole entire thing is to expose how much, especially in the so-called Black community, those that have a higher ranking in the so-called Black community, namely your everyday celebrities or your pro-woke politicians or advocates or whoever you want to call out there, are doing their best job to make sure that the so-called Black man and now Black woman is in line and will still follow themselves to respect the mother goddess worship. What do I mean by that? Now, if you paid attention on this channel, and you can view this video at any time, I made a video talking about Kamala Harris is set to be the monarch of America. And with that being said, there's always been this question about whether we're ready for a woman president in America. Do women deserve to be a president, and all these different things? And it's been a controversial issue. Now, to those that's been paying attention in 2024, a lot will say that they don't want a woman president. There's ones that's been specifically saying that Kamala Harris should not be president. And usually within the immature brackets of so-called Black people, they then start sitting up there throwing out ad hominem attacks, or either they'll sit up there and start calling people names that disagree with their stance on why they believe that Kamala Harris should not be president. And my opinion is this: so-called Black people have one of the low self-esteems I've ever saw. They are trying so hard to invite so-called Black people who otherwise wouldn't even note themselves as Black or as not Black in general to the cookout. Spiritually, psychologically, and we could probably even say physically, because there was so-called Black people that invited Kamala Harris to an actual cookout, and they took pictures with her and still forgot about that stupid ass statement she said about washing collard greens in a bathtub. Now, again, I'm not here to tell you who to vote for if I'm widely telling you directly that I would not vote for Kamala Harris, or I do not view Kamala Harris as a president. I'm not here to tell you that. I'm here to tell you to vote for whoever you want to vote for. And I am not a Trump stan. So I don't want people thinking on this channel that that's my position on anything. This is just a conversation. So otherwise than that, what's been in the media the last couple of days that I find funny is that so many people have accused Janet Jackson of misinformation, saying that she was wrong for what she's saying. And the whole entire time she said on The Guardian, which is a video I'm going to do in the future, where I'll go over the article with you guys so we can read word for what she said, and we can get an input of what was the actual words from The Guardian. Otherwise than that, I would say one of the Boule workers at work, D.L. Hughley, decided to give his input about what Janet Jackson said, and I found it to be very immature, very childish, and those remarkings were not needed, all because she had an opinion about the heritage of Kamala Harris, in which she was saying that what I was told is that her dad is not Black. Her dad is white. And so far, we always get into these conversations about who's Black, who's not Black, the one drop rule, biracials not understanding their place in society and not understanding that. And therefore, you would think that it's only so-called Black men that's coming out the woodworks and saying, we ain't messing with Kamala Harris. But now certain people in the Black media don't know what to do, because even the so-called Black woman is starting to question the ethics, the codes, and even the heritage of Kamala Harris. It's a funny time in history. And therefore, a lot of people see this as a time to say, I'm going to vote for Trump because of these very reasons. It's all a divide and conquer strategy. Us spending all day having a conversation about someone's heritage. In my opinion, a lot of people need to be more educated about Jamaica themselves. Because if you understand what how Jamaica is, they have different nationalities that exist in Jamaica. And especially if you're from New York City, famously, if you go out in Queens, ironically, Jamaica, Queens, you will notice that you have Jamaicans that are also Indian. You have Chinese Jamaicans. Usually, if you live or you were vacationing in Jamaica, you will see Asian Jamaicans, you'll see white Jamaicans, so on and so forth. But I'm going to take my time and analyze this video that was on The View. So Pete. Fair use.
Superstar Janet Jackson just did a wide-ranging interview with British newspaper The Guardian, but most of the focus is on when she was asked her thoughts on VP Kamala Harris possibly becoming the first black female president. She said, she answered by saying that she had heard that Harris's father was white, which we all know is false. And a staffer claims that he was fired for issuing an apology in her name and that her team certified he wasn't authorized to speak on her behalf. Now,
in which he shouldn't. It should be Janet Jackson directly making the statement himself. I don't give a damn if it comes from the marketing team, the people, the publicists, all this, that, and the third. Janet Jackson has every right on making a statement with whether she's apologizing or not. And which, in my opinion, Janet Jackson doesn't need to apologize for shit. She sat there and said, I heard. I'm not sure. I haven't found out she was black until recent years. I've always thought she was Indian. That was what was told. It's a difference.
Jackson has not responded to requests for comment, but no matter how you feel about...
Well, she did respond. I heard that I was told that she responded and she said, I said what I said, just like that Doja Cat song.
Celebs speaking out politically, you know, is it okay for somebody to say, I don't know, I made a mistake?
Well, she hasn't said that she made a mistake. We don't know what she said because it's been one thing and another. Look, I think Janet Jackson, like every other American, whether you're a celebrity or not, has a right to endorse, support, or not support whomever they want. So she's got every right to not like Kamala Harris if she doesn't want to.
But that's not what she said.
And Whoopi Goldberg is going to make that statement, and exactly what I'm talking about. This is when you have to understand things and put things into context. Janet Jackson was asked about her political views on things, and all she said was about Kamala Harris' heritage. She did not say she didn't like Kamala Harris. She did not say she wouldn't vote for Kamala Harris. She only spoke on her identity. This is where people need to pay attention and stop just saying things just to say things. You don't sound smart, bitch. Know exactly what the hell you're talking about.
What she doesn't know, what she did was spread misinformation. And I think it's very irresponsible when you have a platform the way Janet Jackson does to use that platform carelessly to spread misinformation based on a racist allegation by Donald Trump, right?
And this is a thing that they love to do. They love to sit up there and say that, they shift the blame on Donald Trump, in which this is my opinion on it by the powers that be, is that they want Trump to be the monster in this situation and blame Donald Trump for spewing the only thing about anti-blackness and she's not black, she's not black, she's not black. When you even have so-called black people themselves that's saying she's not black. Many out there that in the past history of our country that we have sat there and seen biracials, namely, and then we would have sat there and said that they're not really black. A lot of people would take their time and sit up there saying that they had their opinions about someone like Barack Obama, who would be technically an African-American by the name itself, an African-American. Father is African, mother was an American, but therefore the heritage of the mother actually stems from a different country in Europe, so to say. But otherwise than that, there is some truth to what has been said. You can't namely say Kamala Harris is an African-American because she's not an African-American. If we're going off the theme of blackness, she is a Jamaican. She is not a Black American, so-called African-Americans would say. And again, you usually hear me say so-called African-American because it's time to also differentiate, because now you have Africans that's been born into the generation after 2 to 3 years, and their family has been in America, and now they're an American citizen, but they can legally say they're African-American. It's such a problem when it comes to these different things about identity politics and how things move and stuff like that. But there they say, such as this lady, Miss Anna, is literally sitting up there saying that she's spreading misinformation. But the whole entire time, Janet Jackson said, I was told, or I thought. So it said. How could that be misinformation? And how do you know that was influenced from Donald Trump? You don't know that. So you're spreading misinformation.
It was Donald Trump who tried to say Kamala Harris just turned black. So let's just go through the 101. Kamala Harris is the daughter of 2 immigrants. Her mother is South Asian from India. Her father is Black from Jamaica. Here is a picture for all of you who need, or for Miss Jackson, if you're nasty, here's the damn picture.
I feel like a picture of Kamala also would have done, Kamala Harris would have done the trick.
But the thing about it is certain people are not educated, because even if we're going off the stance, if we were to all believe that Kamala Harris' father is not Black, again, people who have not been to Jamaica or have been to the island itself, they don't know what they're talking about. Again, you can probably see, more than likely, people from Jamaican, that is Indian Jamaican, white Jamaican, Asian Jamaican. But otherwise in this, I've always thought in the back of my head, it is definitely a distraction. It is definitely a way to divide and conquer amongst people by having this redundant conversation about who Kamala Harris is, about her identity. It just starts to become a wave pool of people arguing back and forth. And that's usually what happens in these elections anyway. Always a fight about something and always an argument about something, instead of paying attention to the bigger picture of what's going to happen in 2025 and beyond. And which I've always said to people, that when it comes to America and the rest of the world, when it comes to the other countries that exist, we are moving into communism. World War III is imminent. And people need to understand that. Don't waste your time on this nonsense, y'all.
I thought of it less from the perspective of Janet Jackson, who's an icon, and I refuse to say anything bad about. Listen, we forget that we live in information silos. This is so different than how the media was even 10 years ago, where people largely got their news and their information from legacy media, where there was a level of objectivity and a fact-checking involved. So if you perhaps get, and I'm just saying this for an example, get all your news on Facebook and you lean right of center, that algorithm is monetized and going to tee up information that reinforces your own beliefs. If you're a Trump supporter online, you very likely won't encounter ever some of the worst things that he has said. The same does go for the left. I don't even know the partisan breakdown of what happened here, but my guess is she's not looking at great sources of media. And I say all
Well, that can mean that she has pure ignorance, but at the same time, call a spade a spade. If you know the information about what's told, and we've been told over and over again that her dad is also biracial, that he's half Indian, half Black, then where do we stand on it? Or he's half Indian, half white. Is the claim that she is making wrong, or is it correct? This is the whole entire thing.
this because it's why I try to not have judgment with Trump voters. Instead, I try to engage them, because I find people who are highly educated, highly successful, that support him, but they often don't know of some of the biggest scandals or the worst things that he's said about people or things that he's done. And I think if you take the judgment out and just kind of get back to facts and then trying to persuade people, it helps.
Well, this is the
Now, that's a good point she's making a little bit, but at the same time, when we go over this whole entire thing, it seems to be more of a selfish attempt to rise Kamala Harris on an occasion that she shouldn't be, about how they always talk about how Trump has all these scandals, Trump did this and Trump did that. But then when there's some shed of light on Kamala Harris and about the scandals she's been involved in and about the things that she said, and especially a video that I'm probably going to do in the future, and where we're going to fact check both Trump and Harris, in which it's swept under the rug. She apologized for it, when namely there's been many attempts and we have found out that she was lying about it, which has been a video that I watched here on YouTube by another content creator that actually took it out themselves and found out the real information about her doing some mysterious practices that landed people in jail. Not just the idea about marijuana offenses, but we're also talking about things that have to deal with the education system. That's going to be something that I'm going to be making in the future, and I'll lead the series on that, and we'll have a conversation. But at the same time, it's like basically take one side, but don't look at the other side. If everybody's guilty, everybody's guilty. Trump did some horrible things. We must say that. It is true. Trump was involved in some very mysterious practices that was bad. But as we see it as well, you can't just say one person does this and then the other person doesn't. Again, Harris has been involved in a lot of unconstitutional, even if I'm not saying unconstitutional, certain practices that landed people in jail. That was wrong and it was messed up. And she said it and did not care about it and then lied when she confronted about it. And nobody likes to have that conversation. But we'll talk about that later.
No, sorry, Sonny. This is the number one most severe warning in the short term we have globally. Misinformation and disinformation. The World Economic Forum said this is our greatest risk in the next few years, and it's not just this country, it's everywhere. And a few reasons. You mentioned that, you know, you've got the algorithm, but you also have internal people like, you know, Donald Trump, who ironically created or coined the term fake news, willingly and on the daily, it seems, perpetuating false stories on purpose. But then you also have.
But at the same time, we also have to recognize, which is true, what this lady is saying is true. There is an influx of false information, misinformation, which I'll take out of my book and say that sometimes we lean into that information trying to create a confirmation bias, in which if we are trying to vote for a president or we're trying to look for the reason why we would want to support a particular candidate, we go ahead and listen to the stories that's been told, and they have more of a clean record, we believe it. But at the same time, why don't people talk about how when it comes to the backhand and the stagehand that people manipulate the information? You have teams and different people that sit up there and try to make Trump look good. And then there's other people that try to make Harris look good. And especially about how, you know, it's been talks all over the place, especially if we're going to, because everybody always wants to point the finger at Trump, but, you know, they always want to say, Harris is such a good person. Harris is such a good person. Why was it misinformation when Trump sat up there and said that Harris was sitting up there inviting people to go to her rallies to make it seem like she had an inflated number when she really didn't? And she was paying people to be there, right? And with that being said, again, it's misinformation all around. That's why we have to do our best job to do our research, go to different sites, source it, and make sure that it's a gratifying source that's true and it's not no BS. Because you will get a lot of bullshit out here. And that's where I absolutely agree. This is where I don't make that mark and I don't say anything else. But I want to change gears. And I want to give you guys a little bit of a backing of someone like D.L. Hughley, who decided to take it upon himself and throw ad hominem attacks at Janet Jackson. And I already know some of these brothers that's, you know, part of the Boule, and I'm not going to say D.L. Hughley, but some of these brothers that might be involved with Divine Nine, allegedly, and the rest of these cats. You know, I've seen certain brothers make some markings, such as Roland Martin having his opinion on things. I'm pretty sure more than likely you're going to have Umar Johnson, not saying Umar Johnson is a part of that club, but just merely black men who's known for activism and saying these different things out here. You know, Kwame Brown and, you know, rest of these brothers making some opinions about what was said from Janet Jackson and other brothers out there that want to make some opinion. But certain brothers that I believe might be a part of the Boule, the Divine Nine, you know, those that's the gatekeepers of the black community in which they want to keep black people in check. More than likely having the so-called black men lean in into worshiping the mother goddess. Therefore, on your screen, Kamala Harris being the monarch figure to probably become president. We don't know until that selection is made after November. So check it out. I'm just going to read to you some of the tweets that Mr. D.L. Hughley said about Janet Jackson that I found just very childish and just, you know, outwardly not necessary. So it says, hashtag Janet Jackson's interview sounded like a Trump rally. FYI, it's a little ironic to question whether someone is black when you're breathing through the nose of a white woman. Hashtag Team DL. Next tweet, he says, all I know is hashtag Kamala looks like she did when she was in Oakland, but Janet don't look like she did when she was Penny. What the hell was in that iron? And of course, referencing like one of the episodes on Good Time when, you know, Janet Jackson played the little girl named Penny. So moving on to more of the cases out here. This is where he says, his third tweet, he says, hashtag Kamala Harris looks the way she does because she has a mama from India and a dad from Jamaica. Hashtag Janet Jackson looks the way she does because she has a plastic surgeon. And therefore, I believe that's the rest of the tweets that was made by Mr. D.L. Hughley himself. But then this is what they was also talking about, how the manager of Janet Jackson was actually fired for trying to issue an apology in her name, in which she never outwardly apologized herself. And he said, Janet Jackson fired me due to disagreements between me, her, and Randy after she met with The Guardian and her unbalanced statements. Janet Jackson would like to clarify her recent comments. She recognizes that her statements regarding Vice President Kamala Harris' racial identity were based on misinformation. But this is where we get wrong as a country. And again, this is all about divide and conquer between people, especially the so-called Black community that seems very naive and not following the game of what's going on when it comes to the presidential election. It's all to create chaos so that you be concerned about one thing and not be concerned about another thing. You can't even talk to certain Black people who stand on issues to talk about how we're going to move the country and look at her economic policies and all these different things that she's issuing or asking what her policies are. We keep going to about race. But the thing about it is, was it true that Janet Jackson based her opinions on misinformation if she said, I was told, I was told, I was told, I was told? In her honest experience, she said, I've always thought that Kamala Harris was Indian, more than likely. Then it was only recently I found out that she was Black. If you believe that she made a false statement and everything that she was saying was a misinformation, make sure you give me your thoughts in the comment section, or just give your comments in general. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Peace.